Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Need to Know in Business Tech podcast. And today, what you need to know is about data masking. Whether you're a technologist or business professional, this is a hot topic. I'm Nico Burney, and I'm joined by Steve Kavalik and Brian Beals from LRS IT Solutions. These two data analytics gurus are going to walk you through the ins and the outs of this essential topic. Because data masking is actually the little known zinger that separates the wheat from the chaff in business tech. Why, you might ask? Well, I'm not going to steal the thunder, but for starters, it's due to the fact that the mind blowing amount of data collected in everyday digital interactions, even by your own company, can actually create data vulnerabilities in your business if you don't have the right policies and the right management technology in place. So, our two guests are going to walk you through the essential hacks of data masking strategy for both tech and business leaders and tell you a little bit more about how they can put those solutions into place in your business. So, gentlemen, please introduce yourselves. Starting with Steve.
Brian Beals.
Brian Beals
and Steve Kavalik.
Steve Kavalik. Hi, gentlemen, our superstar analytics and AI practice leaders at LRS. So welcome to today's discussion. And please tell me about LRS IT Solutions.
So LRS is a 40-year-old technology organization. Actually, we're a software company rooted in the Midwest, Springfield, Illinois, to be exact. One of the divisions that we represent is IT Solutions, and we help customers with all their IT needs. So we're a tier one systems integrator. We also happen to be one of the very few IBM Platinum Elite partners. And Steve and I represent the Big Data and Analytics group, or Analytics and AI as we go by today. And what we do is help customers find value in their data.
Amazing. So tell me about the analytics and AI practice that you referred to.
The overall goal is for us to help our customers find value in the data. Our customers have been collecting data from a wide variety of sources, be it on-site applications that they use to help run their business. We've seen through IoT sensor data. There's also outside data sources around things like weather, social media, and other sources that can be purchased. And our goal is to help our customers be able to find the little gold nuggets that help them make better decisions to help run their business based on that data they've been collecting. So it's not only the decision making, but also how you collect, how you organize, and then how you infuse that data throughout their organizations.
Fantastic. So both of you have been involved in this practice for decades, it sounds, even though you're both young, strapping men. So talk to me about corporate data assets. This is a top concern for CXOs everywhere. So what are some of the capabilities that companies need? And what are some of the capabilities that companies need in order to deploy analytical solutions successfully?
One of the big things that a lot of organizations overlook is the need to secure that data. So certain information needs to be protected from prying eyes, whether that's internal or external. And being able to obfuscate or mask data is one of those areas.
Okay. And you mentioned security. I know this is an extremely important topic right now. You hear about it in the news and would never have thought that data analytics and security go hand in hand. So, can you talk more about the importance of security strategy as it relates to your analytics processes and technologies?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we help our customers do is develop and implement a very strong information architecture. And security and governance are something that should be considered right from the very beginning. And security is a very broad topic. Typically when people hear security, they think about data encryption, which is essentially, hiding the data or making it difficult to read when it's sitting in a database somewhere, or while it's being transferred between applications and databases. But there's some other components to security as well. Identity and access management, information rights management around how customers handle the use of documents. But I think to add on to that, an area that a lot of people don't think about is data masking. So Brian mentioned how you obfuscate or mix up or provide fictionalized data that is still usable. in non-production environments. That's a big area that we're seeing a need for today.
Wow. So tell me more about, in detail, about data masking that you both mentioned. Give us the boilerplate Cliff Notes definition of what is data masking and why it should matter to both executives and IT decision makers.
Yeah, so data masking is a type of a function that's applied to raw data used to hide its original values. So organizations, they might have, let's say we're talking about a leasing company where they process loans. And within that loan application, there's going to be a variety of data sets that you are not going to want to be available to just any person. So you might have things like name, address, phone number, credit card number, social security number, just to name a few. And all of those are PII data, which is actually protected by law.
Yes.
You can't have exposed. And what the challenges are, it's fine in that application because people need to go in and process that loan. Or if you call in as a customer, they need to look up your loan number, verify your social security number. Those functions need to exist. But organizations are taking that data and they're making multiple copies of it. And they're using them for development, for testing. It could be offshore developers that are writing reports against that data. It could be contractors internally, or it just could be just a regular employee, a database administrator. And essentially, you probably don't need your DBA knowing how much the CEO makes, or that someone in his department's getting a raise before he actually got it. So we want to take and mask that test data. So if it is exposed or it gets copied to a thumb drive or a laptop, it'll be data it still has referential integrity. I can build reports against it and use it for testing purposes, but it actually has no monetary value and can impose no risk to the business at that point.
Wow, that sounds like really important technology and an approach that every company should have. I mean, I've heard about so many threats and so many high-profile threats hitting in the news, whether it's the oil pipeline or the IT services company that got hit. It sounds like they needed to work with you guys. So talk to me about the threats themselves. Where do they come from, and what are you guys seeing out there in the industry?
There's just a couple things, right? I think definitely the test and development environments are definitely potential targets for an attack for people that might have nefarious intentions, because they contain copies of production data. And typically, the test and development environments aren't as well protected or monitored as production systems. So you need to either mask or protect them in some sort of way. The threats can be external. Everyone knows that there are always people that are trying to get into business application systems. And we also know that the average cost in 2021 of a data breach is well over $4 million. So most of the attention, I think, is focused on external risks, but risks can also come from internal sources. And I think Brian laid out some very good use cases of why you need to make sure that not all prying eyes are looking at the actual production data and production values of their data. And I think it's tricky around test and development applications and test and develop your database developers and application developers, right? Because they still need to be able to modernize an application or build out a brand new application. And they need data to do that. They just don't need to see the actual value. So the whole idea behind data masking is to provide realistic but fictional values that they can work with.
That sounds extremely useful and practical. But it also sounds a little complicated to implement. So do you have to create a whole solution from scratch with code, or, what's the first step that a company, might take if they wanted to put data masking into practice? What do they need to do?
Yeah, at LRS, we offer some strategic offerings where we go in and work with an organization to understand what their needs are, the types of data. Not all databases are created equal, so we do work with a variety of sources, some being row and column, others being a file-based database. So we really need to understand their needs, the requirements, their environment, and what it is they're trying to do, and then we deploy our solutions. Pretty much everything within our solutions are commercial off-the-shelf software, and it does require some services and implementation to figure out what we're going to mask, how we're going to feed that, at what frequency. Are we going to mask and unmask on the fly for certain people? Are we just going to set up a data management profile for test and dev environments and training environments? So it really depends on each customer's unique environment and situation and needs.
Awesome. So, do you think this is something smaller companies can do? Is it out of their reach, or is it something that like a small bank or an insurance provider is also able to do?
Oh, this is definitely something that is a fit for anyone that's concerned about protecting non-production data or production data that they have in multiple environments. And I think that the products that we resell and implement and represent, are more than just having a masking template, right? Or it involves a couple of different steps. And the first thing is to go out, automatically discover where all the sensitive information lives, and be able to determine, right, where parent-child relationships of the data are, understanding where downstream databases are somehow connected. They'll provide a extensible or totally comprehensive set of templates for masking your data, so there's no coding involved. And then once those masking templates are employed and have been used, the platform should continuously audit and make sure that data masking is working as it expected in those non-production environments. So with so much automation, with so much centralization and standardization of data in your production and non-production environments, right, these platforms are really a perfect fit for a business of any size.
Wow. So this is something they can do as well. But is this like a one-time thing, or is your solution something that's ongoing? What should they think of it? As a one and done, or a kind of an ongoing activity as part of their overall security posture?
No, this would be an ongoing activity. So as their organization
Wow.
is changing,
Hmm.
they're going to need to be able to grow that. So they might be adding new data fields, new data sources. Another thing I'll point out about the masking and the templates that Steve referred to is if I'm
Hmm.
masking data, let's say in a mainframe, but I also
Hmm.
have the same or similar data with matching keys like account number in a
Hmm.
SQL Server database, I
Hmm.
need to apply the same masking rules to both of those so
Uh-huh.
that when I'm working with that data in either environment, that I have that referential integrity. And so if I change a phone number in one record, that phone number needs to be masked the same in a totally different system, but they need to be relational, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, that makes perfect sense. Awesome. So, how about you guys give us an example? I mean, it sounds like this is a topic that, like you said, like Steve said, businesses of all sizes really need to be looking at this. So, make it even more real for them. Could you give us an example of what you've done in the past around data masking?
Yeah, definitely. We have a customer that we were talking to about a different aspect of analytics, and we were just asking, what other initiatives they have. And they said, I'm not sure if you can help us with this, but we did an outside audit, and they determined that one of the exposures that we have is around data that's in our test and development environments. And it was determined through the audit that this could be a multi-million-dollar exposure if someone were to somehow
Wow.
get their hands on this data and be able
Mhm.
to read and use that data. So we talked about some of the platforms that we recently addressed in the earlier discussion, and then took them through a proof of concept.
Okay. And then what products do you use, or what products do you normally use for this?
Well, for this particular engagement, it consisted of IBM's Optum product for data masking
Okay.
and a
Mm-hmm.
product by AB Martin for masking of unstructured data. So this customer had both structured and unstructured data, which made it very unique. And we were able to mask them both with that integrity. And Steve mentioned $4 million exposure, and um, we might even argue that could be very low, right? Because you're gonna have risk to the or damage to the brand as well. So
Mhm.
Target has been in the news as of late for having some real big issues. And when that data gets out, I mean, it's going to affect your customers' perception of you, and are they going to continue to trust and do business with you if their data is leaked? And there's
Sure.
there's the lawsuits, there's paying for protection, the identity theft. right? That's kind of standard these days. If someone is breached, that they have to give that to all their customers. So there are a lot of different expenses involved in this, but brand is one of the major ones, in my opinion.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. So after you've completed this data masking activity, what do you feel like are the main benefits for beyond obviously the improved security? Were there other kinds of benefits that this customer was able to realize from your initiative?
I think there were definitely a couple benefits. I think, first of all, they were able to protect confidential data that was in their tests, their training, their development environments. Um, Obviously, protecting that against misuse and potential fraud is a big thing. They reduced the risk of data breaches and any fines that they may have been responsible for. But I think overall, if you think about data masking as a part of governance, this was just one more step in helping them secure a very strong and sound information architecture and really rounded out their information governance offering and platform.
Fantastic. Do you think that companies, regardless of size, should be thinking about data masking and even consider it? Especially, I would think that this kind of discussion for a CEO, the CFO, all kind of C's in the C-suite, they all should be talking about this. Do you think this is something that, CXOs around this country are talking about right now?
Not nearly enough. And it's funny you bring that point up. Quite often when we bring this up with our customers, they're going, I can't believe we haven't been doing this already, right? Because
Exactly.
it has that kind of importance. But it's overlooked, right? It seems to be more of the afterthought. Most organizations and people tend to focus on the application and what it can deliver, negating what could be on the back end of that needs to be protected.
Yeah, we already mentioned that, right, there is an economic consequence to data breach, but right, there are a whole set of laws out there, right, that apply to all companies, whether it's HIPAA, COPPA, GDPR, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act from back in the 90s, right? So there are laws to make people want to be able to protect their data. So it behooves them to stay on the right side of the law and to use data masking.
Yeah, so they may not be even aware because, we hear lots about data security and we hear about things like encryption, threat detection, intrusion prevention, you name it. But I've never heard about data masking, and I thought I was in the know in tech. I mean, I research technology decisions all the time. So if someone like me isn't particularly in the know about data masking, then I would imagine your average, mid-market or small business CEO probably have never even heard of it. So it's really great that you guys joined us today and made sure that those executives are in the need to know on this particular topic. It sounds like, they really should be making this part of their ongoing strategy. What do you think?
It's really amazing to see how many copies of this data, this production data gets made. And we find it on laptops going home to people's houses, and they're doing work against production data on their home network, on their laptop. And it can be a little frightening.
Yes, absolutely. They're playing video games on that same laptop, and it's crazy. So, is this project, for a small bank or an insurance company like we talked about, is this gonna, break their bank? Is this something that they can afford? Could you give us an idea of the complexity and the, maybe a rough cost for a step like this?
Yeah, honestly, this is really the funny part. For generally, between $200,000 and $500,000, you can put in a pretty robust test data management system.
Wow.
And considering, the risk it's going to alleviate, it's a drop in the bucket of insurance, right?
It
And it's
really
going to stay with you.
Yes. That sounds like a reasonable investment for that type of a company. So besides masking data, what other strategies can your customers use to centralize the management of data in test and development environments? What would you recommend?
Yeah, we've seen a couple of trends. One of the things that we've seen from really more of a software development is the switch to more agile software development. And in agile software development, the testing of code occurs as the code is released. So there needs to be continuous testing, and in order to do that, your database and application developers need access to a lot of data, and they need it to the freshest data, right, very, very often.
Mhm.
I think previously, like, a lot of the approaches to supplying that data to the developers were just making copies of data and moving them into those environments. But the whole copying aspect of data presents a set of risks. So first of all, you've got production data, right? If you can't test against production systems, right? You could take them down, right?
Yes.
Copying data is time consuming. It takes a long time. And then finally, when you are copying data, it's costly, right? Because you need additional storage. So what we're seeing a trend in is around test data management, easier, better ways to provide copies or virtual copies of data so that your application and database developers can do their jobs.
And that's smart because then it's masked and secure, right? I mean, and all of that.
Absolutely. So masking would definitely be part of it, but they can do strategies around subsetting data. So instead of moving an entire application database, they can take parts of it. For some industries where the data is just too sensitive, you can fabricate synthetic data. And then finally, there's the concept of virtual data copies, where you're making copies. You make one golden copy, but then you make a whole subset of virtual copies that require zero storage space. And that's really where we think the direction of things are going.
Well, guys, this has not only been extremely informative for me, and I'm sure for our listeners, but I feel like I better go back and check my own data strategy to make sure that we've got all the best analytics and security practices in place as well. I hope our listeners are going to do the same thing. You've made it so clear and so easy to understand for me as a CEO of my small company that I'm sure that our listeners will also be able to understand the benefits and the power of data masking. So are there any final words that you'd like to say as you say goodbye to our listeners?
Yeah, I have a couple. So Kaneko, if anyone needs to reach us, they can reach out to analytics@lrs.com. And Steve and I would be happy to have a discussion with them about either their analytics or AI environment, or talking to them about how we might set up a test data management strategy and help them mask their own data.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brian. What a great resource. Thank you so much. So, Steve, any parting words for you?
Please reach out to us at analytics@lrs.com. And then just to kind of wrap things up around the value of data masking and then doing proper test data management, I think there are a couple benefits that we need to just highlight. First of all, it helps your application and database developers create bulletproof code because they're able to test against the latest production data. It's less intrusive on your production databases. It anonymizes the test data, right? So it reduces your overall risk and exposure to people looking at sensitive data. And I think it gives you faster testing cycles, and it obviously saves on infrastructure cost savings by being able to virtualize your test data. So those are some of the big reasons people are going towards test data management and data masking. Those are something that we have expertise in, and we'd love to be able to talk to you about how to roadmap that and how to implement proper strategies.
Thank you so much, you guys, for your insights today. What a great discussion. You guys really are analytics gurus. Well, everyone, now you're in the need to know about data masking. You're in the know. Welcome. If you want additional insights, or if today's discussion has sparked a new need, feel free to reach out to Steve and or Brian at analytics@lrs.com, as they mentioned. You can also ping me or my team and we'll happily connect you. Or you can go to lrsitsolutions.com to learn more. So learn more about the latest tech insights and what you need to know in business tech today by visiting btechly.com. Have a great day, everyone. We hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye.